It doesn't take a genius to realize that Vanguard isn't the hottest COD game on the block, but why is that when Call of Duty usually has one of the most addicting and basic formulas out of any franchise? Why did Vanguard fail? Well, to start, I think the most base level reason for this and why the game isn't popular is just due to its predecessors and the time frame of the game. They say it isn't a World War II game and that it takes place a couple of years later or whatever they said, but let's just be honest, it's a World War II game, which is a time setting that I believe COD fans are just done with since it's overdone to death. And the one time they made a return to this time frame happened to be a game that arguably failed because of its launch and how poorly made the game was for the longest time, which ironically was made by the same studio that made Vanguard. This time frame though is just something I think left a sour taste in the mouth of many fans when announced. Most people wanted another modern setting COD after Cold War, which was set in the 80s, so going even further back in time was definitely not what the community wanted. I honestly saw before the launch of Vanguard, many people preferred futuristic CODs more than this, which is already a big red flag because if the casual players want a jetpack COD over a World War II shooter, there's an issue. Another reason the game failed though was what happened before the game's launch. The development cycle for this game had reportedly been trash for years. If you don't know, Vanguard was supposed to be COD 2020, but the game was so unready and so much turmoil was happening in Sledgehammer that they had to bring in Treyarch to finish the game and give us Cold War. And even at that, Vanguard right now is arguably being run by Treyarch more than Sledgehammer. Treyarch is leading over ranked play and zombies over the game, which is more than half the game if you're not including the campaign, which is just something that should not be the case. So already before the game even saw the light of day, fans already didn't want the game, and the game's development had been so torched that there was no way the game was gonna be good. I guaranteed you that in a few years, ex-Sledgehammer employees will talk about how horrible either working on the game was, or how awful some kind of aspect of the internal game was, like the coding or whatever it might be. Even then though, talking about the game on launch, the most impressive part of the game was that there were more than 5 multiplayer maps, which, don't get me wrong, had me incredibly excited because it honestly took me 2 days to play each map once. That's what I'm looking for out of a COD, just a plethora of content, but other than that, the game was rough. Everything about the game was just not fun. A lot of the maps were not so great maps, and the guns were incredibly overpowered at launch, spawns were chalked, and just too many other things. Then, once the meta started to come out, the game got even worse. The whole Molotov meta or whatever grenade it was, I forget which, but that during the Christmas was the most annoying thing I have ever seen out of a COD. Every game ever on DOS House or Shipment was just the Molotovs to the point where either there was too much, so the game would be at 15 or lower FPS, or the server would crash, or your game would crash. And that was every single game. And what did Sledgehammer do about this? They went on a 2-week vacation and didn't fix it until the new year. But even now though, 10 months later, after they have ironed out the majority of problems, why is the game still a failure? Even Sledgehammer's previous World War II game from 2017 made a comeback in the second half of the game's life. Why hasn't Vanguard done that? Well, simply put, there's just a lack of passion for the game, and there's no reason to return to the game. The most incentive to play Vanguard is for league play rewards, but the problem is, casual players just aren't fit for ranked play, and they get stomped out, and they don't want to go for the rewards. Simple as that. And even then, they aren't that great of rewards regardless. Don't get me wrong, some of the blueprints that you can earn in ranked play look great, just I also know they only look great because everything else we have been given for free or as a reward in the past 3 years has been pretty trashy. So they're not great in the aspect of like comparing them to the shop, but compared to what else we've been given for free that we could either earn or just been given, they look phenomenal. And that's one reason I think this game has failed. They are doing literally nothing with the game and giving us zero content. Every season in Vanguard has more store bundles advertised than actual new content given to us. And of course, anything that's cool cosmetically is behind a paywall. On the other hand though, 2017's World War II was doing events left and right and giving out free multiplayer maps that don't suck, giving us free stuff and putting in cool stuff in supply drops. And somehow, the hated supply drop system that we all despise was garnering more players back into the game than Vanguard's free updates. Why is that? Simply because you didn't have to pay for supply drops if you didn't want to, and you still got a chance at getting the cool stuff for free. In the system we have now though, you have a 0% chance of getting any of the cool stuff for free because it's just in the shop, and there's no way to get around it or no other way to get anything. Even then though, back to the free stuff, 2017's World War II was adding fun free stuff compared to free things, which Vanguard is using as a cop-out. For example, in 2017's World War II, we got a free map where you were little green army men in a sandbox just running around while people were watching you. Vanguard got a remake of a map from 2017's World War II, and if you just don't get what I'm trying to say here, I'm trying to say Vanguard, their free shit is just not fun. It doesn't have to be crazy like army men running around, it just needs to be fun, which this game is lacking. But even then, it's hard to have fun when you have SBMM kicking your mouth in every other match, and also the incredibly high time to kill, a minimap that doesn't work properly unless you use a specific perk, which should not be the case at all, and then of course the squad spawning ruin your enjoyment, and so on. The game's core is quite literally a copy and paste of Modern Warfare 2019's, but done wrong. I know I've said it before in some old videos, but Vanguard quite literally is having an identity crisis. The game doesn't know if it wants to be a slow and tedious game like Modern Warfare 19, or a fast and arcadey game like Black Ops 4, and you can have those at the same time, but they're just doing it so horribly that they can either pick one and go with that, or they can have where it is now instead of doing it the right way. But the movement is quick, the maps are designed to be fast, and the combat pacings make everything just a tad bit faster, but that time to kill, the squad spawning, and no proper minimap is doing everything to slow down the game to the point where it's in this weird state of being too fast and too slow at the same time. This is a turnoff for anyone regardless of playstyle, and something I really wish they could have just made their mind up when figuring it out. Also, with this game, everything sucks in it besides ranked play. Zombie was an absolute joke until Shino Numa came around, which had the community excited for about 12 hours, and multiplayer is a struggle to enjoy in itself. There's a reason almost every professional player says pubs aren't fun, and these are the professional COD players, the best of the best that have been playing for years. They know what they're saying. And these pro players, they know pubs aren't fun because of all the reasons I've listed before. But ranked play on the other hand is the game's only redeeming factor in my opinion, which again, I know I've said this before, but the league play system should never be the most prominent aspect of a Call of Duty. It should just be a well-made side mode for people that are competitive and like the competitive aspect of COD like me. But wrapping it back to a topic I dabbled about earlier, the big reason I believe this game failed is the incentive to play the game. And again, there is none here. There is no prestige master that matters, it gets reset back to level 1 every 60 days, and there is no 100% calling card. There are no practical challenges for cool stuff for casual players. The only challenges you can do that result in anything kinda cool are the chrome skins for operators, which you have to get level 20 on every single operator, and then you also have Atomic, which I don't even need to begin why that's not reasonable for casual players, and honestly most players. But really, the only incentive I see to play this game for many people is only for the hardcore players, not casual players. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but there honestly doesn't really need to be an incentive for people to play the game if the game was simply just fun. For example, a game like Black Ops 2 didn't really have that many incentives to play the game besides the fact that the game was just fun and everyone was on it. But for a game like Vanguard, there needs to be an incentive to play the game because the game simply sucks. And at that, there needs to be a reason for casual players to play the game, not only the hardcore, dedicated players. I honestly think a straightforward move here would be add the classic prestige back. Give people a reason to keep playing and climb that prestige ladder while hardcore players earn it just a little bit faster. But notice how I said keep playing. The thing with seasonal prestige is that there's no reason to keep playing, only a reason to come back and then leave again. Of course, once people start hitting max prestige, they aren't going to have a reason to keep going, but that's why you use your heads to bring more stuff into the game and that time you're given to keep people playing. It honestly seems so simple to me and is honestly a proven method if you just look at all the previous CODs. Or another uncomplicated thing to do would be community events, which I know yes they do, but to go more in depth you can watch my videos on COD events just to save us some time, but pretty much I'm saying some actual good events, not the crappy ones that we get now. But at the end of it, there's really just no reason to play Vanguard. You get absolutely nothing in return unless if you're an incredibly loyal player playing the game. And at that, no one is playing the game already, so it's already not as fun or rewarding to get on. And lastly, the game is simply just bad at its core. Back in the day, you actually got something in return for playing the game. The game was fun, people only played that game, and you could do fun things that aren't realistic. Also, you didn't get scammed out of $20 for a singular skin for a particular gun with specific attachments. Moreover though, Warzone. Warzone is also by far one of the biggest reasons I think the last 3 CODs have not done as well as they should have. Modern Warfare kind of being the exception here, but Cold War and Vanguard, besides the pandemic and horrible development, Warzone was the thorn in the premium title's sides. Every single $60 COD had to accommodate Warzone before itself, because Warzone was the moneymaker. And that's fine, the two games can exist in the same world, such as Blackout and Black Ops 4 did. They just need to be treated right, which they are absolutely not doing here. And you can argue that it was the same with Blackout, because let me tell you, Blackout absolutely got way more love than Black Ops 4 multiplayer, but at the end of the day, the BO4 multiplayer was still getting meaningful content while existing in Blackout's world. In Warzone's world though, there is an imbalance of content between the two games. It is obvious that everything is done to work for Warzone first, and for everything to be able to be accessible in Warzone. Everything from making that new $60 COD game, the weapons in that game incredibly more overpowered in Warzone, making people want to buy that premium COD to rank up that gun or whatever it is, all the way to making the newer CODs feel more like Warzone, and for future CODs to all be on the same engine for that Warzone 2 feel. It's all just for Warzone. Look at any Vanguard season roadmap and you will always see Warzone first and then the $60 game. And you will also see that Warzone has much more content and arguably more meaningful content a lot of the time. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing by any means, because obviously Warzone is the moneymaker for the company and they want to give that game everything they have, but in return, they're killing classic 6v6 COD, which they can easily have both games be fine together. The bar right now for 6v6 COD is so low that literally anything above the bare minimum would be enough to satisfy the majority of the community. They've done it before, which is why it's a little confusing why it's so hard for them to make a good 6v6 COD now. And with Vanguard, not only did they not make that good COD, but they also didn't start fixing the game and making it better to play until just recently. Why would anyone want to play a game that barely works half the time, or want to play a game to get a new DLC gun for Warzone when you either have to buy it, or you have to wait days to rank up in the battle pass to get it, or do some incredibly stupid challenges to get the gun? Now, thankfully, Sledgehammer did one of the greatest updates I've ever seen by unlocking every DLC gun besides the new ones that have come out just recently, which means I can now use these guns I wanted to use, but just had some incredibly stupid challenge behind them. And they also made it to where the new guns don't have incredibly stupid challenges. For example, the Vargo, you only have to get 15 point blank kills. That's it. Literally one of the best updates I've ever seen in a recent COD. I just wish they would do more of this, because we as a community, we don't want to play 15 games and get 3 crouching kills in each game and have to play the games fully. Like, it's just pretty stupid. But regardless though, Vanguard has a lot of problems, and yes, a lot of them have been fixed, but they still have a lot of problems. I'll give Sledgehammer props for making something out of the game. My problem here is that it's simply just too late. Like their previous game, they waited too long to make the game good, and unfortunately, Vanguard was not suitable for a while and arguably wasn't that great in all. In reality, where the game is now is where it should have been at launch, but hey, I honestly rather take it later than never. But hopefully though, all these changes that they've been making to Vanguard to make it better, they do with Modern Warfare 2. Genuinely, I believe that Vanguard was a turning point for COD, as they finally realized that if they are going to keep going down this road that they have been, they are going to just kill the game, and in return, we have seen a lot of good improvements throughout Vanguard that I love. I just want them to happen earlier, so hopefully they keep that going and make Modern Warfare 2 a great COD, because I know they can do it. I know if they just make some of the good changes, they can make Modern Warfare 2 one of the best CODs ever, but who knows though. If you did enjoy the video, make sure not to leave without leaving a like and subscribing for more, and let me know what other reasons you think Vanguard failed as a game in the comments below. But until the next time, see ya.